Well, the creek is still very high and off colour, and I'm glad I brought my worms. Hey you! You're watching Robbie Fishing. Today I'm going to be fishing with worms in a creek that's very high. It's not flooded, but it's only just under flood level. It's absolutely pumping. Backwaters are few and far between. So when I find a nice backwater like this one here, I'm not just going to just drift the worm through and then move on. I'm just going to sit on my backside and just wait for a little while to get a bite. I'm going to essentially slow fishing for trout with worms, I'll call it. I'm going to be making my way upstream really slowly, concentrating lots of my time on the likely looking spots like the one in front of me there. Let's go and get some worms on and get my line in. Oh, look at that. Big, fat, juicy Jan-Juck worms. I might just pin that through twice and slide it down a little bit. I might put two on just to start. One is probably a better option, but I'll put two on because that'll be double the smell. Once I start seeing fish, my confidence will increase. Then I'll probably go to one. But I'll start with two ultra juicy fat Jan-Juck worms and two little weeny split trots just to help keep the bait on the bottom. Now what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to cast that out there on the edge of the current, let it sink a bit, and then I'm just going to sit my line on my rod like that, and now I'm just going to wait until I get a nibble. Angling. I just sat down and I've got an instantly wet bum. Now I don't usually like fishing from the top of the pool, the upstream side, and I certainly don't like sitting up high like this and silhouetting myself. But when the creeks are this dirty and high, they're much more forgiving. It's much harder for the fish to see me now than it would be if the creek was low and clear. Just had my first bite. That's good. There is a hungry fish here. I've had a nibble. It's still playing with it. It's still there. It's not on the line. I'll put it back down. It was a definite bite. I looked at my watch and it was my phone, it was 2:30, and I thought I'll give it till 2:45, I'll give it 15 minutes, and it took 1 minute. Yeah, let's just pull tight again. I reckon he's on there. It stayed pretty tight. Yep, he's on there. What the hell? This is a huge fish. Not a carp, is it? There used to be carp in this creek many years ago. I hope this is a trout. What the hell? There used to be carp in this creek years ago, but I haven't seen him here for a very long time. I can't stop this fish. Between the fact that it's a massively heavy fish and the small amount of line that I've got, I just can't stop it. As I was going to say, there used to be carp in this creek many years ago. In 1993, we had a big flood, massive flood, and it eroded the creek so bad that there was no vegetation left on the banks. It silted up, it was shallow and warm, and the carp just appeared from nowhere. But gradually over time they've disappeared, and the last one I caught in here was probably 2011 or 2012. Now I can't see this being anything but a carp because it is enormous. There's so much weight in this fish. Now I'm not going to care if I lose it as long as I can see it. I've got to get a visual on it. I'm only using 4-pound monofilament line. It's got to be a carp. It can't possibly be a trout. Whatever it is feels like it's 8 or 10 pound. A massive carp, I'm pretty sure. First one I've seen in the creek here since probably 2012. I remember catching one I fished here with my cousin Rhiannon after the 2011 floods, and I caught a carp then, and I haven't seen one here since. I think I'm about to see my first one in close to 10 years. I'll roll my sleeves up here while I'm waiting for this massive big fish to tire out. Not the way I wanted to start. I'll be glad to get it out of the system. It's a huge carp, and when I say huge, it is a proper donkey. What's it doing right up here? Just when I thought I'd hook the biggest trout in the creek, I haven't got a landing net or fish grips or anything because I wasn't expecting to hook anything that weighed 10 pound today. In fact, anything over 35 centimetres would have been a big fish. This is insane. The old Crucius travel rod's bent right over. can't slow it down. I'm going to have to get it up here into the shallows here in a minute somehow. Coming up there automatically all by itself. I don't want to get it out into the current because it'll just snap my line. It's heavy enough without the force of the water pushing against it. Gee, am I going to be glad to get this out of the creek. Look at the size of it. That is a proper donkey of a carp. It's huge. I'm going to come over here. So I need to try and, how deep is it in there? Can I stand there? Not really. I need to get it into this little nook and cranny here. That is just a huge carp. Really wish I had somebody with me at the moment to take a photo of me with this fish if I landed. It's gone out of the current now, that's a problem. Now I'm using 4-pound line. That's got to be at least a 10 or 12 pound carp. And it's in the current. Feels like I've got a snag, but I haven't. A snag's swimming. What do I call this video? Fishing for trout with worms but catching massive carp. Now my biggest ever carp is 78 centimetres and I've caught 3 or 4 that size. I don't know whether this is going to equal that or pass. I don't think it's that big. I'm guessing it's going to go 70. I'm guessing 72. I hope I've got some kind of tape measure in my bag. If not, I'll have to just mark it against my fishing rod and then measure my rod when I get back to the car. Or when I get home, even if I haven't got a tape measure in the car. It's tiring. I want to check that I'm filming because I have too many mishaps. Yeah, no good. This is an absolute submarine. So glad I caught it and I've hooked it. I hope I don't lose it because I really want to get it out of this creek. Right, come on. Come on. If I can beach it there, I might be able to get my hand around its, under its gills or something. And hold it there for a second in position in such a way that it doesn't jeopardise the safety of my graphite fishing rod. I hope I've got a tape measure him. Oh, you bloody thing. He saw me walk towards it and it panicked. That's big. That's got to be in the 70s. Where's my line? Where is my line? I'm way up back here. Come on, mate. Come on. Nice and calm. Nice and calm. Got it. Whoa! That is huge! That is a proper donkey. Look at the size of that fish. That's got to be nudging 70 centimetres. I get a photo and a measure. Unfortunately, I don't have scales, but I do have a tape measure. From there to there. Oh, it's not as big as I thought. Not quite 70. 68 centimetres. That's got to be at least, I reckon, I'm guessing 12 pound. I just got a 12 pound carp on 4 pound line chasing trout in a small stream. Imagine if it was a trout. Look at that, that just goes to show how tough these Jan-Jack worms are. In all that commotion, I've lost one of my 2 split shots, but the same worms are still on the hook. Although I think I'll take them off and put some fresh ones on now. Wow. On the wrong side of the creek here. I need to be over that side. Folks, I missed the hook up, but I've done it again. I've hooked up to a massive fish. I reckon it's another carp. I missed the hook up because I was just sitting here dangling a worm pretty much. Talking to myself maybe. Look at the size of it. It's another huge big carp. This is actually where I caught the last carp that I caught in the creek here about 10 years ago. This is huge. The last carp I caught in this creek before today was just downstream of this bridge here on private property. I was with my cousin Rhiannon and it was probably 4 or 5 pound. I clearly remember Rhiannon was living in Darwin at the time and she come down to Wangaratta to watch a St Kilda versus Essendon game, I think it was. There was an AFL match in Wangaratta and we'd had so much rain, like 100 millimetres in one day, that the match was called off. So Rhiannon came down to go to the footy was called off, so I brought her up here fishing. And that was March 2011. And I haven't caught a carp in the creek since. I wonder how they've managed somehow just come back all of a sudden. I'm doing my bit to make sure they don't stay. Well, as far as a trout fishing video goes, this has been rather unsuccessful. But as far as a carp fishing video goes, it's been a real hoot. Don't you wrap around that snag. Gee whiz, it's hard to control them in the snags when they're that big and heavy. I wasn't filming because I've actually been fishing for over an hour. It's been probably an hour since I've caught that first carp. And I've fished quite a number of pools, haven't had a touch. But when I was reeling in that last carp, I quickly touched on how the 1993 floods sort of gorged the creek out and then the carp moved in. This spot here, I'm on private property here, this is the farmer's driveway. But this is a good example. See how wide and shallow, it's really wide and shallow. It's a good habitat for carp here. This long stretch, this used to be 3-4 foot wide with a gravel bottom, deep pools, tussocks, and teeming with trout. But this, the fact that it's really wide now is a hangover from that massive flood 30 years ago, nearly 30 years ago. I don't know how I'm going to get this in. It's down there in the current. It's in amongst all them snags. I need to get it up here away from them snags. Yeah, so there's still a few. After 1993 floods, the entire creek was really wide. It was sandy and silted. It was in a hell of a mess. And there was some works in certain areas to replant streamside vegetation and habitat. And that's improved things a lot. I think it needs a fair bit more revegetation work done to it, to be quite honest. But still, as it is, it's okay. It's not perfect. But it's not stuffed anymore like it was after the 1993 floods either. And there are trout here. I've caught them here on my channel plenty of times. God, look at that. I just can't get it out of there. If I was using 8-pound line, I'd probably have it up here by now, but there's a couple of snags there and it's wrapped around them a couple of times. I need to be able to get it up here. This is just incredible. This is the hardest fish fights, well this and the other one, are the hardest fish fights that I've had for a very long time. I'm not giving up yet, I've still got another half an hour or an hour or so. I'm going to keep making my way upstream after this because I'm determined. I've come up here chasing trout. I'm determined to catch one in this video. As Rex Hunt used to say, lifting, winding, lifting, winding, lifting, winding, lifting, winding. Here we go. He's starting to tire out a bit. The last one was 68. I reckon this is similar. That was about 400 or 500 metres downstream too. come on. I reckon if that was 68, I'm going to put this one at 64. Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to leave it lay there for a second, because if I walk over to it, this is where I've broken fishing rods in the past, by high sticking them when they're in this position. Got him! Ugh. Oh, that is huge! Another huge carpio. The last one was 68, I reckon this is going to be 66. I just reckon it doesn't look quite as long. It's not as long, it's 62. Maybe it's just because I'm catching it on such light line that I'm overestimating the size. The other one was 68, that one's 62. I've turned it over so as not to show too much blood in the video. Right, put this one to sleep and then keep moving on and see if I can catch a trout. Achieve what I set out to achieve. Usually I'm fishing this spot from the other side of the creek. I usually step over it down there, fish here, then step over it just there. I don't have a boat to cross it there at the moment. One of my favourite holes in the entire creek, this one. I catch a lot of blackfish in here in the warmer months on a sunset. Not sure whether I'm getting a bit of a nibble or whether the current's just dragging my split shot around a bit. I reckon it's a nibble. Just had a nibble. There he goes, there he goes. He's biting it. But he's going to be my first trout, is it? Got him. Yeah, baby, my first trout. I can put my hand on the grass because everything is drenched. And I've just caught my first trout. 2 thumping great carp later, and I'm on the board with what I came here for. He's unhooked and ready to go back. I'm not even going to get off my fat backside. I'm just going to lob him from here. Brown trout, thanks for coming along. Actually, I'll change my camera settings and do it in slow motion. Brown trout, thanks for coming along. Right, I'm finally on the board with what I came here for. Now, I'm not going to wander too far. I'm just going to go up here to this part of the hole because I caught that down here. And given that the water's sort of so high and off colour, if there's another fish in here, it should still bite. That shouldn't disturb it too much, I don't think. Right, I'm going to do a bit of angling in this hole for a while. I'm just going to do a bit of bottom fishing, as they call it. I'll sit that there. Then I'll sit over here on this wet log and I'll give it 15 to 20 minutes. No nibbles here as yet.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on his farm he had a cow.
Here we go, getting a nibble and got him. What have I got? Is it a trout? Feels like a trout. It is a trout. My battery is very soon about to go flat. So, I'll lift him out, unhook him, get him back before my battery goes flat. And I'll wet my hand on all his grass. I can tell you right now how wet the grass is because I've been sitting on it. I'm not going to get a photo because I haven't got time. My battery's on 2%. Lovely brown trout. See you later, mate. Wow, what an afternoon. This didn't quite go as expected, but it was still awesome. I caught 2 enormous carp. Disappointing to see them here. Fun to catch, but I'm glad I got them out of the creek. And I caught 2 lovely brown trout, both of which were released. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video half as much as I enjoyed filming it.